Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight. I'm Stephanie Scheller. This is your opportunity to get to know incredible business owners who have made huge accomplishments that you might not have otherwise gotten the chance to learn from. And I'm kind of excited. So today's person just popped up on my calendar. I still have no clue where exactly she came from or how she got the link. I was super excited. And I found out in our pre-chatting, she's been in business for 7 years, which is phenomenal because you guys do realize like 80% of all businesses don't make it past 3 years in business. And of the remaining, another 80% don't make it past 5. So this is like super, super cool for me. So Jenevy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. So obviously you and I chatted, but our listeners have no clue who you are, what you do. So why don't we start with that? What exactly do you do for your business?
Okay, well, our business, the Evolve firm, the company I started originally was Empire Enterprise. And just a couple of months ago, I partnered up with a great partner, Thomas McBride, and he had creative content and we joined forces. And now our company is called the Evolve Business Services. We are a visual communications firm and we specialize in branding companies, everything from graphic design to web development, SEO, social media, and now video production with our new partner, Albert Flores.
Wow. So you guys like it's the whole gambit there.
Yes, exactly. Everything that a small business owner needs.
And that was going to be my next question is like, so do you focus on the small business owner, the medium, the enterprise? Where are you guys at?
We focus, my passion has always been entrepreneurs, small business owners. I graduated from International Academy of Design and Technology. And right after that, I started off as a basic graphic designer at Sterling Allison Media. And from there, I worked my way up. Within a couple of months, I became creative director. And they focus mostly on corporate clients. And I realized that there was such a big need for small business owners in that same department. So when they moved up to Austin, I decided to buy a portion of the company and start my own here, focusing on small business owners.
That's awesome. You and I, like, it's funny. So as you're talking, like, and as you were talking before, I was like, wow, this chick and I actually have a lot in common. Like,
I love that.
I was working for a major firm and they were focusing there. So there were two divisions, one was focusing on the big companies, one was focusing on the small ones, but they were only providing marketing. There was no branding, there was no backup, and then there was nothing what to do with that marketing. So we would get a ton of people who would I could generate 60 plus calls a month for somebody and they would still think it wasn't working because they couldn't close the deals. Yeah. And so that was when I was like, oh my gosh, there's this need and I can't do it inside the major corporation. So that's freaking cool. So 7 years in business, you must have run into some problems and challenges.
Absolutely. It's always a learning process. You never fully, finished learning.
Even the guys who are like way light years down the road are still not finished. Like they're still learning stuff every day. What are some of the biggest challenges that you bumped into that could have put you out of business and how did you handle those?
Okay, that's a good one. In the beginning of my business, especially for a graphic designer, they always assume that you're a freelancer. And if you're a freelancer, they think you don't need to charge that much. And so this took a while for me to learn was because I was just so focused on helping everybody and lowering prices here and there just so that I can help that person. But I found out that the more time I spent with the people who didn't want to invest in their company were the ones who took up most of my time, exhausted me, would call me on weekends and 3 a.m. asking for more and more without wanting to pay or invest. And that could have really, really destroyed my business in the first year if I allowed it to continue. What really helped me was joining forces with some great mentors. And they really opened my eyes up to see that if I lowered the prices and just went with whatever people were telling me to charge, having the clients define my business, basically. That's what destroyed my business. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned was this is my company, this is my brand. Therefore, the values and my morals should not change just because this client is asking me to, just because this fits their budget and this fits their time frame. And that was one of the biggest things I had to learn as a business owner.
That was super eloquently put together, and I think one of the biggest lessons that has been touched on and it's not been touched on in all the business spotlights we've done. No one's talked about that, and that to me is huge because that's a big one. And I ran into the same thing in my business where I was letting everyone else define it, and I started to realize, like, you can't do that. First of all, you're right. Those cheap guys, what bothered me was the guys who wanted to pay $50 a month for coaching or wanted to pay $50 to attend a 2-day seminar. Those were the guys who never did anything with what they learned either. So, and I'm sure you found the same thing. They never did anything with the graphics you created for them. And so it's this like fine line of, I want to help you out, but I want to help out the people who are going to do something.
Right.
And so that was great. That was a really good one. Like that, we could just end the interview now. That was I'm kidding. But I am curious. So you did just take on a partner. 2 questions. We'll start with the first one. Taking on a partner can be really scary for a lot of people. How did you navigate that, like building the partnership and, because I've seen a lot of people who they start the partnership off and everything's hunky-dory, and then all of a sudden it crashes, burns, and they're both out of business and it sucks. So how did you guys navigate that to avoid that?
Well, before this partner, I did attempt to have 2 other partners in the past, and I can tell you those crashed and burned real quick. The first one, when we first started off the bat, one of my best friends, we actually went to school together, but he ended up going a different direction and ended up moving. So I was left with the company by myself, which was fine. I was able to do it. And then 3 years later, I met someone else who could bring services that I couldn't provide. So we were getting ready to partner up. And before all the paperwork was done, he ended up getting a job from someone else and decided to leave. So I have been burned before. So that's why it took so long for me to trust someone else and to actually even consider having a partner. So of course I vetted them, but not only is the fact that we have a great partnership even prior to signing the paperwork, we of course did a trial run. Made sure that what he was bringing to the table was stuff that would complement and also add value to what we already have with Empire Enterprise. And Thomas was an English professor, writer, very, very powerful with social media as well as SEO. And he's actually one of the few people that are actually certified to do SEO.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I didn't even know that there were certifications and things that you had to get just to really make sure that you stay on top of it because it's always changing.
Yeah, that's a complicated. I tell business owners, I'm like, look, here's the deal. Not every business needs SEO. And if you do need SEO, don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
The big companies can afford to have an in-house person doing it, but it's going to cost you a couple $1,000s a month. And just don't sit there and be like, oh, I can do it. Like, no, you can't. You're not that smart. And I shouldn't say you're not that smart. It's that you don't have time. You're busy running your business and you don't have time to go stay up to date on all the SEO stuff.
Right. And actually, again, because we're focused on small business owners, we don't charge nearly half as much as those other companies do because we want to make sure that you have the tools to run your business.
Which I love because it's, this is something where business owners try and do everything in-house and they end up crippling themselves. They end up crippling how much they can grow because they're like, I can't afford to outsource. And one of my biggest lessons, I know this isn't about me, but it was like, you can't afford not to outsource.
Exactly. That quote, what was it? If you don't want to pay for a professional designer, hire a bad designer.
Right. Like you will very quickly realize you're not, like I did stuff on Fiverr for a long time. I don't do stuff on Fiverr anymore. We'll just throw that one out there.
What, $5 for a logo? come on.
Yeah, right? Like, oh, come on. That doesn't, no. Okay. So, well, that kind of answered the question. So what I was going to ask, what was the purpose of teaming up? But it sounds like he brought stuff to the table that you wanted. So where are you guys going from here? Like world domination or?
Yeah, we're actually we are getting ready to go on an international platform.
Nice.
And so a lot of great things are happening just in the first few weeks of January, and opportunities have been arising like crazy. So we are getting ready to be starting our international platform in Canada real soon.
Wow, that's cool. So, excuse me. So you guys are going for, let me ask this then. How do you balance the day-to-day of being the business owner and running the business and putting out fires and taking care of this and taking care of that, and still doing the vision side of, okay, this is what we're going to move towards. We're going to open a new branch in Canada. Like we're going to do this stuff. How do you balance that? Because that's a challenge a lot of business owners run into.
Yes, and that is still a challenge I'm still going through. I don't think anybody really quite get to the point where you've balanced everything out.
No.
Because there's times where I feel like I am balanced, and then all of a sudden, something comes up, and then you have to shift your focus again. It's really one of the great things about being a business owner is really being able to see the bigger picture before everybody else does.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to see the bigger picture and to take a step back, and that's when you can kind of start putting the pieces together and what would make me the most profit, where should I be spending my time the most. And there's still a lot of things I'm learning. I'm never quite there. As a business owner, as a mother of two, as a wife, there's always going to be a balance where there's going to be times where I'm going to have to spend more time in this part of my business versus this part of the business. And one of the most important parts that I really, really focus on is, of course, the customer service. Because that trust, you never want to do anything to diminish that trust.
Yeah.
The communication line always has to be open. And that's what makes us successful for 7 years, is that communication and the relationships we have with our clients.
Yep. No, and I do agree. I think sometimes people start to put that one on the back burner. And one of the keys to customer service, I'm sure, is taking care of your team, right? Like they have to, because if you take care of them, then they do a better job, but you still have to be available to the customer. Like there's no real way around that one. Well, I know we've been going for a little while, and I want to wrap this up before we get too long, because I want people to get the most out of this. Let me wrap up with one of my last favorite questions. What is your best piece of advice for other business owners, either the beginning ones, or maybe they're a few years in, or maybe they're several years in and they're watching this just for like a shot in the arm, pump it up? What's your best piece of advice you would give them?
That's a good one too. For business owners, especially those who have been going at it for a long time, my best piece of advice is that quote: it all depends on how bad you want it. So that vision that you started off with, when you first wrote your business plan, I go to a lot of different colleges and do a lot of motivational speaking engagements. But what I always tell them is, when you write your business plan, always date it. And then when you revise it, save it as a new date. So you can kind of see the progress of your business, because things are always going to change, new technology. So your business is going to have to evolve with that. And when you're going through the day-to-day of just working your business, you forget and you lose that passion and the reason why you're doing what you're doing. So I always keep that quote in the back of my mind. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? I'm starting my business I started my business because I want to help business owners, and now I'm building it so that I can leave a legacy for my kids, and I want to leave a good example for them as well. So every day I'm waking up, and no matter how tired you are, no matter how many meetings you have listed for your day, don't lose or don't forget the passion. Don't forget the reason why you're doing what you're doing. You always start with your whys. And if that stays in the forefront of your mind, everything else will just kind of fall into place.
I love it. And I think that's such a big key. I talk about that a lot, you know, with my team as well as with my clients, is like, you got to stay focused on where you're going. You got to remember that. You got to. So I think that was a really good note to end on. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me and muddling through all of the technology issues.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, I mean, so you're not the first person to have trouble with, you know, getting the camera and stuff. Although, yeah, the Zoom trouble, that one is new to me, so I don't understand that one. But again, this was really good. You know, I joked. I said the people I have the hardest time getting on here are usually some of the best interviews, and I think you definitely stepped up and lived up. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me today.
So for our listeners, for our watchers out there, like, this is the Business Owner Spotlight. Wasn't that cool? The chance to learn from someone who's been doing it and has gotten to where a lot of people aspire to get to. You know, for less than 5% of all businesses, small businesses, to ever make it past 5 years in business, that's huge. And to know, like, you have to pick their brain with me. How cool is that? If you know someone who'd be a great fit, comment below, grab my email address, send them to me. I would love to bring them on the Business Owner Spotlight. In the meantime, how bad do you want it? I like that. Run with it. Make it a great week.